Good morning. Sorry, a little bit chaotic, having a few tech dramas this morning. It's also raining, so if you hear a lot of background noise, I apologize. I've tried to noise gate it out, but there's not much I can do. Just let me adjust this microphone up just a smidge, and then I think we should be okay. All right, I'm going by levels. Good morning. So, how are you? How was your weekend? All of that stuff. I'm sitting here trying to pretend that I'm not in a lot of pain, and but I should be okay. Hi, Emily. And so we've got Judith Ann. Oh, hi, Judith. We haven't seen Judith for a while. And Lucas and Emily C. And hi, everybody. So now, a little bit of housekeeping. I'll be this is a little bit monologue-y, but I am doing a series right now I really want to deep dive on disinformation, bots, some of the tactics that a lot of activists are using, the digital strategy. It's funny how we've come full circle. It turns out that the stuff that I happen to know really well is the stuff that people are hurting for, which is how the sausage is made in terms of online marketing and online campaigning. I'm going to walk you through it's one document, but I just want to tease some of this stuff, okay? There's a lot of information. So we'll have some fun, we'll have a laugh, but there's some pretty scary shit. But I'm hoping that you might learn a little bit along the way and, we'll have some fun. But we got plenty of time. We've got a few weeks to get through this. So hopefully I'm not cramming too much into one stream there's something to learn from each thing, but we can have some fun. So do ask me questions. I'll try to get to them as best I can. And I will ignore people that I don't recognize, okay? So if you are using a username that I've engaged with you before and you're one of my regulars, but I don't recognize you and I ignore you, it's not for any reason other than the fact that there needs to be some sort of threshold for me to engage with the comments. Otherwise, it just ends up becoming fucking unbearable. So, but good morning to Flicker and Peter and Paul. So hello, everybody. Now, there's an interesting person. Actually, I think it's actually you, Paul. I think it's actually the Paul that I know who joined some dots for me. Like I've been spending the last I'm just doing my tea thing. Hang on, I got one of these tea things, right? Judith, welcome. You're about to fucking learn a lot. Okay, you're about to be horrified, but it's okay because we can use their own strategies. So, oh, my love. I'm sorry in advance, but you are. Okay, now, so it's funny how we've come full circle, but I have a master's in public policy. I'm familiar with things like the activist playbook, the snowflake model, how to organize in a campaign. I've helped people get elected. Like it's something that I knew, okay, was a strategy, right? I didn't know, and I think this is the gap for a lot of people, that I did not know that it had been weaponized or misused in a way that if you know me, takes me a little while to warm up, but hang on, let me just adjust the exposure too, because this is fucking annoying me. There we go. But so dark day, fucking bad light, rainy sound, not feeling well. This is going to go well. I can already tell it's going to go well. I had to adjust the light so I don't look so jaundiced. I'm very not well. So anyway, okay. So it's really funny how I've been dancing around all this stuff and not quite getting there and not quite figuring out what the fuck's going on. And I think a lot of people are speaking with authority on this stuff, but a lot of people are missing the marketing angle of this, the digital marketing. Now, one thing that I like to do, and I'm sure you know by now that I like to do this, is I like to start with what I know to be true, because there's so much, there's that feeling, right? Like everyone keeps coming to me going, it feels like everybody collectively has lost their damn minds, that that there's some big conspiracy to gaslight all of us, that there's some big conspiracy, and conspiracies feel big, okay? Conspiracies feel crazy, okay? that's not why we're here, okay? I'm here to focus on maybe anchoring us back to what we know to be true, okay? And I've spent the last 2 or 3 years, but most of my career, but 2 or 3 years was when I decided that I saw the writing on the wall and I had to quit marketing. And it's all, and again, I know that people, when you've only got a hammer, all you see is a nail. And so for me, for a while there, I kind of, because I quit marketing, I ignored a lot of that stuff. I saw it was getting evil, but I thought that there was a separate, that it was political, that there was some other thing going on. I didn't quite realize just how, I apologize if it takes me a while to get my brain together. Again, I'm not well, so my brain is a little slower and scattered, more scattered than usual. So be patient with me. But I knew, again, there's things that we know to be true, okay? Like we know that the Obama 2008 campaign, if you've read Surveillance, I've been brushing on all this stuff for so long. It's just like this jigsaw puzzle, right? There's this, yes, sorry, Emily, yes. So Emily said, does everything we write end up on video? Oh dear, it does. But I use that as a means of, because I do a cross-platform. Sorry for those. I do like to just welcome those that are new and make them feel welcome. It does, but that's because I stream cross-platform and I like people to have a conversation, across the platforms and because sometimes I engage with the Periscope fucks and the YouTube people can't see what's going on and that sort of thing. So I like it to be a big sort of event. So hang in there. Anyway, so okay, but it's felt like a jigsaw puzzle, okay, of things I knew. And I do need to give a public shout out to Paul for this, because not my husband, my friend Paul, who reminded me of the Organizer's Handbook. Okay. Now I knew that's something that everyone knows about, like it's organizing, like political organizing, political campaigning. I've known about, Marshall Gantz's work, like, because I've got, I'm in the same field, right? I've known about his papers. I knew about the snowflake model, right? I had no idea that this was like that he was basically a D'Angelo level sort of coach, and that a lot of these tactics had been sort of put on steroids using a lot of the same tactics as multi-level marketing. And now I want to show you the document that's kind of made me go, okay. And I've alluded to this last week. And you're seeing the crazy part. You're seeing the video live stream where I'm still writing shit down, okay? I write better than I talk. But this is my process, not my product. So, but I want to show you this document because I hypothesized this. And I knew that, again, it's something how you go, I knew it was true. I suspected it would be used this way. I said this in previous videos where when I was giving a presentation to the Women's Parliamentarians Conference in 2010. So I was a speaker at this conference. I was death with flu, right? And I remember it. And I bombed a bit because I was just really unwell. There's a theme. I'm always fucking unwell. But anyway, it was in Sydney and I was talking to all the female parliamentarians in Australia. Okay. And I was presenting on Twitter and I sat there and I need to find that old presentation. And I remember, right, and there was a couple of different presentations where I was joking about how social media can be used effectively to campaign. The presentation was called I Tweet and I Vote, and it focused on hashtag Spill, which was that real-time reporting and banter around when Kevin Rudd fucked over Julia Gillard and vice versa in the Australian Labor Party when there was a leadership spill. And we saw democracy in sort of action. And I remember thinking at the time that there was something really in this for anybody who's trying to get political engagement. Because one of the biggest problems in politics, right, be patient with me because my brain is off in fucking autistic land. You can tell, right? Because every time I'm fucking autistic thinking, I look up to the left. Okay, anyway, so it's like a weird stim. So Let me just fucking hell. Can the light decide what it's doing, please? Thank y'all. I need to build a proper fucking studio. Okay. So in this presentation, I sort of brushed on this, the potential for civic engagement. Like really, I think a lot of us who were working in politics and in social media, right? The biggest problem with politics has always been apathy, okay? And I mean, I think early on, a lot of us had a really idealistic view of what this could look like, which was that we would organize online. I was one of the first people to help sort of set up the Greens website, Drupal, CVCRM, help consult on all of that sort of stuff. So I know how to do all of this digital organization. I consulted to Oxfam. I've done a bunch of this stuff. But I only saw it because a few years later, I got sick of fucking politics. I decided that politics was for fucking, like I couldn't do it. It's just, I'm not wired for it, right? I'm not wired for all that. So I just moved into business and corporate consulting and started doing more. Sorry, I'm annoying people. Sip. I started doing more corporate consulting and sort of just fell into digital agency land, tried to inject my politics into business, not business into politics. And that was the blind spot for me because I made the mistake of assuming that political campaigners that I know, okay, I know most of them, were still working at sort of this level, the level that I left. I didn't realize that they were putting business practices into politics. Now, I knew they were doing this in America. So this leads to the 2008 Obama campaign. Okay. So I need to thank you, Paul, for helping me to join the dots because he pointed out that Marshall Ganz runs all of the courses, all of the campaigning courses for BLM, for all of the social justice groups. He's a public policy professor at Harvard University. Okay. Now, he is behind the snowflake model, which I'll go in. I'm going to go through that. That's quite a big handbook, so I'm going to like piecemeal it for you. But this is just sort of an intro, a very fucking long intro, but you're used to it, right? So Mr. Tellum said, would that looking up to the left be an autist tick? Yes, it is. I do. You may notice that I do this, which is why it affects my sound. So I need to make sure that I have my microphone back. I do rock. I also have various non-verbal tics and stutters. So rather than stutter, my eyes move around. I used to stutter, but so when my eyes do this, it means that I'm consciously trying to visualize a funnel so that the words don't sort of out of my mouth. I visualize a funnel so that I speak more slowly and more clearly. So please be patient with me. This is not my natural medium, okay? I'm more of a writer. I'm doing this because it's the easiest way to get like content out there. So anyway, this is where my book is leading. Because a lot of the book, Dying by the Sword, if you're not familiar with it, chapter 1, I'm starting to tell the story through memoir, but also trying to diagnose how we got here, how we're here. So that's for those in the back who are new. Okay, so it is you, Paul. Fabulous. I'm so glad you're on stream. So Paul can clarify anything because that has been sort of the missing link for me. Because I was familiar with the snowflake model, I was familiar with a lot of his papers. I thought Marshall Ganz was just an academic who wrote a few papers and was, influential in that space. I had no idea that he was actually consulting, and that was my missing gap. Because I haven't been working in government or not-for-profits, I hadn't been exposed to the fact that he was actually consulting, and that's my smoking gun. So, okay. Now, it's all the same playbook, okay? That's the thing you need to understand. The thing for me is that what he's done, and it's actually quite genius, right? And I hadn't really, again, it's that whole politics. I put politics in business and applied my politics to business and political campaigns. I didn't realize people were doing the reverse. Now, are you guys familiar with multi-level marketing, or it's called network marketing, affiliate marketing, it's basically, I would argue that they're no different from a pyramid scheme, but, legally there is a difference. But if you have been exposed to sort of multi-level marketing in business, right, what is done, and it was just like the penny dropped. Because again, it's context. I think for a lot of people, we work in the business world, or you work in the political world, or you work in academia, or you're a journalist. And because I sort of straddled those worlds, I'm sitting here going, okay, I can see these jigsaw puzzles, but I'm missing one piece in the middle. This handbook is that piece. Okay, so thank you, Paul. It's just amazing how, like, it's so fucking obvious. You could be staring at something forever, right? And then suddenly go fucking eureka. Anyway, but I'm going to show you a thing, right? This is a real world example, because I'm not going to go through the whole organizer's playbook, because that's quite a big thing to go through. But what you've got to think about is network marketing, multi-level marketing. You know that thing, right? Think about doTERRA or Amway, Avon, all those sort of culty, there's a few Bitcoin ones, all those things that really are very focused on recruitment, okay? They don't make their money. So multi-level marketing is not like a traditional model for business, right? It's not like you open up a store, you sell product, you have margin, and whoever buys it, you make profit on that margin, you pay taxes to the government, and that's it. Right? Multi-level marketing, and again, there's complexities to this, but keep it simple. With multi-level marketing, right, it's that whole idea of the upline versus and the downline. So you've got a large base of people like sales reps, party plan stuff, right? Everyone, I'm sure most people have been exposed to those fucking scams at some point, because if you're on the internet and you're friends with me, you know someone who's fucking selling something, right? And adding all their friends to fucking Facebook groups. Going through that sort of that tactical approach. So what they do is they focus on recruiting everybody in their friends list, right? Here's a funny story. Now, this is a funny story. My little brush with Amway, okay? It's quite funny. I think this story actually highlights kind of the sort of sociopathic mindset that I'm trying to get you into, because it's a good example of it, where they sort of recruit you into this Amway cult, right? And there was a time, because I was with my first husband from the age of 17. We married out of high school, but we were together 6 years before we got married. About 6 years, yeah. But there was a period of time where we'd broken up sort of for a year, and we're on and on again, off again, usual fucking, late teens, early 20s shit, right? And there was a period of time where we'd make up and break up and whatever. And I went on some of those early online dating sites, right? And, because I was a nerd, I was fucking, let's try dating, right? I met this guy on there, and he basically, it was basically like, if you're on a dating site right now, like it must be crazy, because I imagine that it's the same sort of shit. This guy, right? So he approached me. He seemed nice. He was a bit older than me. He was like ex-wife and whatever. And I was like, oh, all right, bit of experience, whatever, older man, cool, whatever. Went on a date. And he presented it like it was a date, but it was a bit weird because it felt a bit more like a business meeting. He then because I was at the time I was working for the ALP, actually, the Australian Labor Party. So I was somebody who obviously had access to lists and networks. You'd think I'd have joined the fucking dots earlier, let's put it that way. But this is a funny little memoir. This will probably make the book, this story. But, but he basically, we had coffee. It was all good. I didn't feel it. He was like substantially shorter than he said, which was funny. But then he just called me and he was like, oh, do you want to hang out? And I went, okay. Like this was, so the second date, the first date was like a fucking meet and greet, whatever. I was young and naive, went back to work, whatever. And then, what do you do? All of that sort of stuff. And then he goes, oh, do you want to hang out? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, well, come to my place. And I went, all right then, bit of experience, the usual thing, right? I knock on the door and a woman answers the door and goes, oh, you must be Taya for the meeting. What? It was his wife. They had MLM and they pitched me on selling their fucking, I can't remember what it was called. Amway rebrands every so often because they get the stink off of them. They rebrand the products, but it was cleaning products and shit, right? Yeah. LOL is basically that sums this up. This is my fucking life because again, it's that autistic thing. I'm naive. I'm gullible as shit. Okay. I'm immune to certain things, but I'm immune to it because I have had to learn to build muscle because I bought a new car because some dude was nice to me. Like I'm so fucking gullible. So anyway, I shouldn't say that on the internet. I'm not anymore. I can advise you on this stuff because I tend to be naive and I tend to believe people when they lie to me and that sort of stuff. So I've had to build those sort of boundaries and walls. So anyway, but so this guy and this woman answers the door and then they pitch me on the fucking cleaning products as a business opportunity. And I went, well, I was a poor student, right? This was I think I was second year of uni, right? Because I hadn't had my daughter. So yeah, it was the second year of uni. I'm remembering this on the fly. It literally just popped into my head, so forgive me. So they sold it to me as a business opportunity, and me being like naive as fuck, right? And I was also involved in student politics at the time, which I find funny because I can actually see the parallels, which is that, you know, I didn't really fit in well at school and socially. So if someone this is the point that I'm trying to make. When someone's super nice to me, right, they do the love bomb. I'm so vulnerable to the love bomb, okay, because I was a lonely kid, fairly lonely person, I'm a lonely adult, and I got a great sense of, and the internet provided that great sense of belonging and community that you know I craved. But you know, up until fucking a decade ago, I really didn't keep many close friends. Like I've had friendships fall apart more often than I've kept them. So I'm writing about this. This is the hard chapter 2 to provide the context. But I think it's worth mentioning it because it talks to sort of that loneliness of meeting someone online, right? Some of my greatest friends I've met online, but I've also met some fuckery, and that's what we're talking about. So I turn up and they sort of, again, suggestible. I hadn't been exposed. I didn't have parents. So, when you get involved in these, multi-level marketing things or Amway, I didn't know. Like, I didn't have like a parent or anyone. I was sort of on my own. So I had to figure stuff out. So there was no one there to turn around and go, no, this is a fucking, whatever. But they basically love bombed me, right? Not in the way that I was expecting going there, mind you. It was fucking weird. But they were surrounded by product, right? And so they said, you've just got to sell this. Now, what you need to do is contact everyone. Here you go. This is the stuff. This is the red flags that you need to sort of think about, right? This is what jigged me with this handbook that I'm going to show you. What you need to do is, because I had the membership list for the entire young centre-left faction, right? Because I was actually helping to run that sort of the campaign of those sorts of things, right? So I was a political campaigner. So they saw me as an easy mark. I had lists, right? And they went, can you recruit all of those people on your list? This was including fucking Senator Peter Cook. This was including, senators and fucking, faction leaders. Like, it's pretty funny. And that was when I kind of went, well, no, because I'm also socially awkward, so I won't do any of that stuff. That's why I hate marketing, because I've had all of that hard sales training, but I'm also just really shy. So I've never actually followed through, but I know all of the strategies and tactics to do those sort of manipulative sales tactics. So, so Marshall Ganz, it's actually a blog post on my website that mentions him, and I'm actually going to add links to the playbook after. I've also linked to it in the previous post about on Patreon. There is a post that links directly to the playbooks, and I will show you. We'll go through it. I know these are long, but fuck it, it's my stream. I can do what I want, and I'm telling a story. It's my process, not my product. So anyway, this guy, and they love bomb me, and I sort of fell into all this stuff, right? Now, they invited me to this fucking conference, and it felt like it was really like a Hillsong kind of thing. I don't know if has anybody here that has fallen into these Amway things where they're all culty and weird and Tony Robbinsy. And, you know, I've always had a bit of a weird ass fucking spidey sense for fucking religious shit. Cause I grew up in like religious households and stuff. And I just, it's not really my thing. So I've always just had a weird spidey sense. And also just, this autism fits here, right? Not being neurotypical means I don't understand people when they lose their minds. Like all these, like there's online communities when all the women start bitching and stuff. I don't understand girl dynamics either. Like when the feminists fall out, I sit there and I go, what the fuck is going on? Why are you all fighting? That's why I struggle to keep friends, because I struggle to fucking take sides, and I don't like gossip. I don't like those sorts of things. And there's always a creepy vibe with Christians and all of that sort of stuff. So it's kind of that's the context for a lot of this, which is that I've always just been instantly suspicious of shit that I don't get. Like I'm just straight down the line, right? It's just something that I go, no, it's the same thing with all this woke shit and all the culture war stuff. I think the fact that I don't understand, I can take a lot of the emotional shit out of it, right? Makes me see it for what it is. And my tendency to go and synthesize it or filter it through what I know to be true, it makes it easier to understand it. The problem was that this puzzle piece was missing. So let's get there. So anyway, they took me to this culty thing. And they were all, like the fucking, oh, you could be a fucking sapphire this. This dude, right, TLDR Taya, he used a dating site, right, targeting women, single women, with his missus, okay, his girlfriend, right, to collude, to recruit people. This is the lengths that people in MLM will go to, right? Every time I brushed up against this culty, like the NLP ones, those life coaches and fucking all those people, they've all got that culty thing going for them. And this has that same dynamic, right? And so that's just that spidey sense thing. And I'll write about this. So for those that are just joining us, this is me sort of writing my book, stream of consciousness style, on video. And so I'm working through, this is probably chapter 3. Chapter 2 is about my childhood. But, okay, so one thing I know about MLMs, like I've always found cults interesting, right? Religions, cults, online stuff, very interesting. And as a marketer, one thing you have to know is cult psychology, right? It's one of those things that you just have to know, because you need to know there's always something culty about building a brand, building a tribe, all of those things. And this is the dilemma that I have about using it for good and using it for evil. And that goes back to the Women's Parliamentarian Conference that I was talking about before, where I presented the opportunity to use Twitter and Facebook and, Civi CRM was the sort of go-to Drupal plugin at the time, CRMs and all of that stuff to sort of mobilize your database, apply Marshall Gantz's model, ironically, right? Because I had just read that paper and various other things when I was just finishing up my master's. So I'm familiar with the model. That's what I find funny. But I just fell away because I went into business and I didn't think about it anymore. I filed it away, right? It's funny. So, and what I saw that, and because when 2008 hit, I was actually inspired by Obama's campaign, right? I remember going, wow, they really get it. They're very effective. Right. I didn't actually study it in detail too much about what they actually did. But one thing that was typical of, landmark shit that was done by the 2008 campaign was that they were the first campaign to use data and analytics and micro-targeting, right? And this is why I find the narrative around this very interesting, because a lot of people are saying that Trump invented this, but he didn't. Okay. Thanks, Obama. This was actually Obama's campaign that actually created this fuckery playbook. Okay. Now, again, it's not the thing about, and it's the same thing in the marketing world, right? The thing about, any playbook, any pack of tactics, it depends on who's using them. Right. And this is the dilemma that I have, which is as a user experience person, as a tech person, as a designer, as somebody who got into the internet because I saw what was possible in terms of educating people. Now, remember what I said before about apathy being the biggest problem and struggling to engage. And again, me not understanding, because I'm not wired evil. I joked that it's like, well, this could be used for evil, but I never thought anybody would. right? That's the thing. It's a blind spot. It's like people don't, I just have these blind spots, right? So, yeah. So this sort of hour of power, potential boss babes through bundle. Yeah, all that stuff. Katie just mentioned all the MLM things, right? So all of that sort of pressure. And they use a lot of those sort of female psychological warfare pressure. So there's a reason why women are targeted particularly, because we are better at putting social pressure on other women. We are more inclined to fall for the kind of culty tactics that involve like being shunned or wanting to sort of fit in, wanting to do good, wanting to have a sense of purpose. One thing I actually read, sorry, that was a running sentence. This is a new paragraph, new line. One thing that I read, refreshed myself, but reminded myself of, was that Mormons love this shit. Because and it actually often target those sorts of families that are religious, because the woman is at home and she fits a psychological profile of somebody who is sort of hurting for more in life. It's a way for her to stay home and do her domestic duties but still have some autonomy and get some income. Well, that's what they sell you on, right? 95% of multi-level marketing people lose money on it, right? Now, if you need, I don't really need to define MLM, but for the most part, the model is, I'm just jumping around, aren't I? But basically, you're not, again, it's uncanny. You're right. You're the product. You're the customer, not your customer, right? That's the thing that they don't realize, right? Is that, so what Avon do is they focus on selling you on becoming the distributor so that you buy the kit. Okay, that's how you move product. You buy product, you consume the product, right? And you then recruit other distributors. There's no real end customer. There might be the person who dabbles and buys some lipstick or whatever, but for the most part, you are the target customer, and your upline and you are incentivized to recruit, not to sell product. That's the difference between, say, a network marketing or affiliate marketing or multi-level model versus an outright pyramid scheme. An outright pyramid scheme focuses just purely on recruitment. But multi-level marketing, you're still technically purchasing product. It's a fucking loophole. It's actually illegal in China and a couple of other countries. So anyway, if you want me to go into depth on what multi-level marketing is, I'm not sure I need to. I think most of us sort of know or have been burned or exposed to it on some level. But there is a culty aspect to it. Now, the thing that's bad about multi-level marketing is that it makes the ground people, right, no money, right? They put in all the effort, all the labor, they do all of the sort of legwork, and they don't actually benefit in any way, right? The upline is who benefits, right? So the grassroots people are the ones who put in most of the effort. They also characteristically use a lot of mind control tactics, right, to recruit people, pressure them, get people so that they're stuck and so that they're losing money. So they sort of use a lot of that sunk cost psychology, right? They use a lot of bullying and all those sorts of things, hard sales, all of that sort of stuff, right? Now, women are vulnerable to it. Young people are vulnerable to it, like I was with the Amway thing, and the vulnerable people. So people who are, who've just lost their job, who are looking for a sense of community and belonging, right? Because those love bombs are powerful, right? Now, a love bomb is where they shower you with fucking praise and support, and you've got all these new friends, and, you get a sense of community and belonging, right? But you always feel like that love and sense of belonging is conditional, okay? And that's probably one of the things, right? So Oberara says, please continue to live stream earlier. Our politics don't agree, but you're naturally funny. Thank you. Yes, I am. And also, I just stream at different times of the day, depending on how I feel, because there's people in other time zones that would like to tune in as well. Like the UK misses out if I do like mid-morning. So anyway, so another thing is that with multi-level marketing is that you're kind of locked in, right, to their ecosystem, right? And this is another marker. And I'm getting to the point. But I think a lot of you are starting to go, oh, yeah, because you're not dumb people. You know roughly where I'm going with this, which is that this woke shit seems like a big fucking not-for-profit, multi-level fucking scam for donations, GoFundMes, fucking all this other stuff, right? Using the same playbook that can be used for good, but has been weaponized and is used, right? Because another thing that you need to know, that once some sort of, okay, and maybe this is one of those things where when you're in the business world, you understand. I think I alluded to this a week ago, that thing where you get a piece of marketing advice and some guru presents it as the gold standard, right? Everyone fucking scrambles for that template, that worksheet, that tactic, right? And then they all do it and they ruin the tactic. That's what, that's what I think that's partially what's happened here, is that this has gone into everyone's hands, right? And there's parts, I prefer not to think that things are a conspiracy, but people implement things well and poorly. Like, I would argue that the gender movement implement this extremely well, and they are a fucking full-blown cult, right? But then you've got sort of your low-level idiots that don't realize that they're actually using these tactics. They just sort of think that they've just got a template of fucking what works or whatever, right? Because this can go right down to, So anyway, so this started with the Obama campaign. But what you need to understand about the Obama campaign that was different to other campaigns was that they did some pretty fucking questionable shit, all right? I saw this happening. I'm not going to go on about it because I've talked about it in other videos, but I reached a point a few years ago where I went, I have to quit marketing. If you're cheering on ways doing contextual McDonald's ads, right, and using UX and data and predictive stuff for this evil, and every CMO in my network was cheering it, and not a single person was fucking going that's unethical, or facial recognition, right? Emotion expression, data tracking, even IoT stuff, right? All this behavioral surplus, right? Read Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff. Really, it's a bit wordy and, American, but, presenting fucking like capitalism as her own idea and IP. You know what Americans do, repackaging and stealing and repackaging. That's what they do best, right? I call it this. Well, no, that's just capitalism, fuckwit. We were all saying that. You just wrote a book. Anyway. So, now, but we'll go through the playbook, okay? Now, this is probably going to be a long stream, but, it's informational, so there's not much I can do. Yeah, Oberara, American as an insult. You're all fuckwits. We're just joking. It's said with love and affection, but you guys are fucking entertaining. Anyway, you're the reality show. You're like the loud chewers of the world, man. You get the president you deserve. So, anyway, you can say that. That's like saying all Australians are Crocodile Dundee. We're just fucking roasting you. You're all fucking idiots, and you're ruining it for everyone else. So anyway, so this started with, so basically what the Obama campaign did was actually use data really effectively for the first time, right? So what they actually did was they assigned people, right? Let's not forget that this is people, okay? Seeing people as voters or users or any other kind of dehumanizing thing, that's where I have grave concerns, right? I left marketing mostly because of the mindset of seeing users as just pawns on a chessboard to be moved around, right? I saw this coming, and I knew that it was happening in politics, but I think that people are giving too much fucking blame to Trump when this actually started with Obama. So what Obama's campaign did, I'm being very, 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 very superficial, but they assigned something called a persuasion score to an individual. And what they would do is they would feed them various types of content and A/B test and see, right, what they responded to positively and negatively, okay, and what they, how they could be. Again, the strategy was to nudge the needle, right? That's what they say. So most elections are won in a handful of states, right, with a handful of swinging voters. Like, it's the same here, right? Swinging voters swing the election. It's not, you've got your diehards, but they can't be persuaded. But this is on Facebook, and so what the Obama campaign did was do that, right? Now, what the Russians did and various other things with IPA and IRA. You got IPA as well, but that's different. IRA, right? And this is when they talk about the Russian bots. What the Russians did was they used that approach to feed disinformation and swing local communities. They've done this in the Philippines and a few other, and I think they did it in some of those Eastern European countries and various other things as well. So it's a very effective tactic, right? Which is what you do is you will take let's say you take a Facebook group, I'm sure some of you are part of like large Facebook groups, right? And you see what happens, right? Every so often you'll see the symptoms. You'll see them go on lockdown, or you'll see that some fuckery will get posted or some disinformation, but what they'll do is they'll do it in subtle ways. So I won't, again, this is something I'll go into in a future. I'm just really introducing you at this point, but I'll go into detail. But basically what they would do is gradually change the conversation. So they get a number of troll farms, and these are not just bots, but they're actually people who are sitting in offices paid, by the 100 of them sitting with managing 100 social media accounts to feed fuckery and lies and start shit. If you're in the trans debate or a political debate or on Twitter, there's a very good chance that you are arguing with a bot. Okay, unless you know that they're a person, or, if they're being really stupid or unreasonable, there's a very good chance that right now they're actually a bot or a human that is so close to a bot, they're not worth the fucking energy anyway. So stop arguing with them, okay? But what they did was they gradually shift. But what that does is eventually, let's say if you've got, this again, superficially speaking, you've got a candidate, Republican, conservatives, right? More about law and order, anti-drug, war on drugs, that sort of stuff, right? On the other side, you've got more social justice and sort of Medicare for all, environment, all that kind of stuff. They're loose, very loose groups of people, right? That's at that high level. What you would do is if you wanted to turn a group that was a group of environmentalists, right, to turn their vote into a Republican vote, for example, what you would do is you would focus on a local gardening group. I've used this example before, right? Local gardening group. Well, not all TRAs are bots, right? You've got your main fucking leaders, but this is a hub and spoke. This is that model again, right? The bots I'll park for later because I'll show you the model and then you'll see how bots can support that model, right? It's all fuckery. But so what you would do is you'd infiltrate, like, say, a local gardening group, okay? People who are into growing their own vegetables, general environmental stuff, right? But it would be more sort of mum and pop people who are sympathetic to the environment, sympathetic to those things, right? They profile that group, right? Then what they would do is they would get into the community, they'd start participating in the community, but they would slowly nudge the community to be more aware of something like crime, okay? So in the gardening group, and this is a very simple example, but this is happening everywhere, every single day, right? Once you see it, you can't unsee it. But what they would do is they would say, fucking local kids ruined my garden or something like that, right? So they spend some time making friends within the group, right? Getting that familiarity, getting a lay of the land. So they would, they read the room, they kind of gather their supporters and rally support, right? And then at some point they would post, these kids like fucking stole my bike, and they like take it off topic and whatever. Gradually making people more aware of local crime. You see how this works? It works very, very insidiously and also one thing you got to know is that it could also just be a fucking person. And that's where the problem is. That's why we need to look at the tactics and the behavior, because you can't suddenly start calling everyone a bot either, because that will implode the community as well. So it's very delicate. But what I'm doing is I'm just showing you some of the tactics, and we can go into detail with some of this stuff. I'm hoping this is valuable and you're going to learn from some stuff and push through my fucking awkward shit. But so that's roughly what goes on. Okay. Now, so what you need to understand, okay, is, let me share my screen. What I need to show you first is the model. Now, I'm going to go into this in a lot more detail, but this is just a quick overview. Let me just change to screen share. It's called the snowflake model, which I find funny. It's pretty funny. But so this article talks about, but what you need to do is focus on this diagram, right? Not a pyramid scheme, because the arrows are pointing outwards instead of inwards, right? But this is the rough approach. So rather than having leaders as such, these are not leaders. What it talks about is decentralized organizing, okay? So you've got, and this actually is not, I don't want to confuse you. This can have spin-offs in all sorts of directions. So it's networks, right? Infinite expanding networks. Think about it that way. If you think about that loose conglomeration between BLM and trans and Antifa and all of those people, right? You can see how this kind of, it's self-replicating. It's viral, right? It's cool. But it's also, when you put MLM practices in place, it's basically an MLM movement, right? So it's the same model. It's pretty funny. I didn't join the dots. So this is just one example, right, of a snowflake model, right? So with actual snowflakes, the possibilities of effective organizational models are limitless. People, and not just around election cycles, have been able to find power in building numbers by talking to people one person at a time. Okay. Now, so what it is this model is really, really good at looking organic when it's actually extremely organized. Now, let's get to the fun part. This agency, okay, you may or may not know them as the agency that fucked up the Iowa caucus with their app, which is concerning, right? All right, but this is acronym. They call themselves Another Acronym, which, I mean, it's basically like saying, oh, no, let's just register another acronym, shall we, and get it set up a GoFundMe. So anyway, how a digital strategy, see, this is where the New York Times is interesting too, because they're hiding the fact that a lot of this stuff is Obama's campaign, right? That actually started this stuff. Russians learned from Obama and the rest of it is fucking history, right? So how a digital ad strategy that helped Trump is being used against him. This should concern you. How a former Facebook employee is using a tool he employed to help President Trump win to conduct tests for a progressive group, acronym. That's these guys, right? Dedicated to ousting Mr. Trump from office. Facebook users in 5 key swing states have been seeing peculiar sequence of political ads pixelating their news feeds for the past 6 months. It begins with a carousel ad from a page called United Research Group asking them to fill out a lengthy survey. Soon afterward, multiple ads from Pacronym, a progressive super PAC, begin to litter the Facebook experience of about half of those who'd been surveyed. Then an ad for a different but related survey appears. This rather specific experience is an intentional and coordinated effort to reach persuadable voters. Now, what you need to know about persuadable voters is that they actually assign you a persuasion score. So what they do is they use things like demographics, sociographics, all of the big data and behavioral trends, right? And they assign you a persuasion score. If you end up on their fucking list, you've got a score, right? I've walked through Brand Yourself before with the reputation tools. It's probably very similar to that. Based on your public online profile, how can we get to you, right? Still believe in democracy? So this rather specific experience is an intentional and coordinated effort to reach persuadable voters in critical presidential battlegrounds, a result of months of work by a group of former Facebook employees and data scientists at the progressive nonprofit group Acronym. Essentially, the group, which includes some who worked on the Trump campaign in 2016, has co-opted the political ad function on Facebook to perform real-time persuasion message testing to get a sense of how voters are reacting to ads as they see them. So that's A/B testing. I've talked about that before. In the fast-paced world of digital advertising, the availability of real-time data beyond mere engagement is fairly small, leaving campaigns with a patchwork of clicks, old polling and hunches to assess the impact of the millions of dollars they're spending on digital platforms. And this is where the measurement and data gets fucking worrying, okay? So Facebook, with about 220 million users, is influential. We know this, right? $100 million has already been spent on the platform for the 2020 presidential election. So what they did was Facebook actually killed that platform because they believed that it was unethical. These former Facebook employees took that and built their own platform based on Facebook's platform, right? To do fuckery. So basically, no matter what Facebook do with their own platform, former employees, right, have decided that they're going to go and build a product. This is a big problem, right? So the coronavirus outbreak has also forced 2020 campaigns to rely on a nearly entirely digital infrastructure, from fundraising to organising to persuasion. Having fresh data to inform campaign arguments online is essential, right? This is how these fucks see citizens. Data, right? Persuadable people, right? Demographic groups, right? And this is why I quit politics, and it's why I quit marketing, because I'm in the business of people and I care about people, and I absolutely don't believe that I think this is unethical, and it's why I quit. Right? I could make a fortune. I invented this fucking product in my mind a decade ago, and I can't do this. It's wrong, right? So this real-time testing project aims to help fill that gap. Called Barometer, the project has been the obsession of James Barnes, the former Facebook employee who was heralded as an MVP of the 2016 Trump campaign, which, again, we're going to note that is based on the playbook of Obama. So it's not new, right? The thing is that it's what they leave out here that frustrates me, okay? It's not actually true. They're making it sound like they're weaponized. See, the way that this article reads upsets me because I fucking hate Trump. But, this idea, right, that somehow this is okay. And this is my own dissonance as well, because I sat there in marketing for 5 years going, well, if I sell ethical products and I do this ethically and I do it for the right reasons, then that's okay, right? So like doing SEO and AdWords is okay as long as it's for the right cause, right? Or, using Waze for contextual billboards, so long as it sells products that people like and want and don't hurt people, that's okay. That's the dissonance, right, that we're in. And it's that this is the thing, right? So Emily's got a question. Again, she's only got 5 more minutes. I'm not sure why we're talking about digital gerrymandering American politics when the title was online activism using MLM behavior. Well, yeah, we'll get there. And also, okay. We'll get there. So, so basically, okay, you want a TLDR? All right. I already gave it to you. Online activism, they're using MLM tactics. I can show you that later. I'm working through it with videos. Okay, so this isn't gerrymandering. This strikes to the heart of the tactics, okay? So now, the thing that Facebook does really well, and the thing that I learned pretty extensively at Facebook, is how to measure things, Mr. Barnes said. As I considered what I wanted to do after Facebook, as I went through this sort of political transformation, bullshit, I wanted to know, what is the best way that I could contribute to help defeat Trump in 2020? Okay. See, this is something that startup bros do all the time, is that they rationalize that they they only see a product opportunity. They only see an opportunity to make money and build a platform. Facebook killed their platform. They went and took it and made it private, right? Sold it to the fucking highest bidder. Don't be naive. Okay. So that tool has since been taken away from political campaigns by Facebook, part of its broad restructuring of how campaigns are allowed to operate on the platform following widespread backlash after the 2016 election. Through his small team of engineers and data scientists, as well as ample cash from Acronym, right, which does not disclose its donors, Mr. Barnes has been able to recreate, to an extent, a similar tool. So if you're in business, you know about the targeted ad tool, right? I'll go through that at some point, but again, there's things, you can find resources on that. So basically what you need to understand here, right? This gives you context, and I'm going to explain why this is important to know. So what's felt impossible in the past is to test the real world effect of ads of people who actually saw them on an ongoing, consistent basis, said Solomon Messing, the chief data science at Acronym. And what we did was to develop a way to do this on Facebook. So they're currently running tests in 5 states, right? Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina. And you could, basically a full test involves So you can read the full article, right? The point is you need to understand that they're doing it and they're measuring it, right? Now, this gives context because the reason you need to know is because Acronym, right, this company, first of all, they are the company who built and they didn't build, a subsidiary of theirs that they invested in, developed the app for the Iowa caucus that fucked up, right? So not only are they actually getting and running the actual votes, right? They're running the campaign based on data. So they've got a massive pool of data. Now, Acronym are the authors of this playbook, right? That looks suspiciously like MLM tactics. That's what I'm getting to, right? So Oberara said, what is the Aussie perspective on Trump and MLM, right? The Aussie perspective is this, well, I'm an Aussie and this is my perspective. And the answer is that we're all being fucked within the head, and I have no position other than look for these tactics, okay? I don't take political sides. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the behavior, right? One thing that I have a problem with is joining the propaganda war on the other side and sharing bullshit in order to defeat the people that I disagree with. I think that's unethical. So we need to start thinking more about ethical practices and legal fucking recourse for these sorts of things that people don't even know. This is undermining democracy, right? Absolutely undermining democracy. So what I'm talking about, there's a reason why I wanted to show you this, because Acronym created this, okay? Now, the Digital Organizing Handbook, right? It's a version of the, it's a digital version that is, so they basically run, hang on, let me show you this, hang on. Excuse me, let me show you their website first. So what they do, they build power and modern infrastructure for a new progressive movement, right? Using online innovation, it's all fucking business wank, but, right? So what they do, right? How they're moving the needle. This is evil shit, okay? So Dan, they build personas up, right? So in branding world, they would build a persona up. Dan, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 32 years old. He is surveyed to establish a baseline on where he stands, right? So they get their baseline. They measure it, right? Based on how he stands, he gets fed advertising, right? He serves and completes another survey, so they refine that, right? And sort of try to nudge you in that right direction, right? Depending on the results, they either amplify the message or change course. So they're constantly testing, constantly manipulating you, constantly trying to feed you information, right? And yes, so Paul said the best counter propaganda is just telling the truth, and that's my goal, is to show that this is happening and to not trust anything that you get, okay? Now, this is, you can see how this is now, this is easily like 3 months of courses. So I'm just giving you a very quick, this is not quick, it's not going to be quick, because you know what, sometimes complicated things need longer. I can't do a 10-minute video on this, right? Go to fucking Tim Pool if you want simplistic shit. Okay, so, but using this measurement framework, this is how they talk about citizens, humans, people, okay? Using this measurement, how dehumanizing, right? Using this measurement framework, we can identify the most effective message tracks and the most responsive audience segments, making our programs more efficient. Our measurement team also works hand in hand with our creative team for rapid iteration and content creation. So this is some of their shit, right? Just fucking, the left can't meme, as we know, but that's just anyway. So working in 2-week sprints, the team runs individual experiments to answer questions around which narratives and messages are effective at impacting presidential job approval, voter enthusiasm, and in some cases, 2020 vote choice, okay? Now, this is the thing. It's like grooming you to make action, all right? So anyway, but this is what, so here's what Acronym has learned so far. So they're learning audiences with low levels of political knowledge. They call them low information voters. Stupid people. Audiences with lower levels of political knowledge are consistently more responsive to an array of messaging strategies, despite being more difficult to reach. Featuring conservative messages like Tucker Carlson in ads criticizing Trump is an effective tactic to weaken the president's approval, particularly among voters 55 and older. How cynical is this shit, right? Promoting, even if I agree with the outcome, I don't agree with these tactics. They're fucking evil. So promoting news articles on Facebook to audiences with lower levels of political knowledge can be as effective as delivering fully produced ad spots. Now, this is fucking Orwellian because they're sitting there going, well, we're sharing the truth. But I've seen some of their work and they're not sharing the truth, okay? Because this isn't true. This stuff is not true. This is just more propaganda, right? So anyway, it's just their own version of fuckery. So Playbook, the digital organizing playbook. Okay, I know it took me an hour to get there, but fuck it. If you're interested, you'll fucking stay. So this is what they give people who sign up to their consulting courses, which I imagine are not cheap, right? This is a variation on the more complex, like a much more intensive organizer's handbook. That's not the same thing, but the principles are very much the same. Those that are familiar with it, right? So welcome to your digital organizing handbook. Okay. So when you think about MLM, right, think about the things I talked to you about how MLMs recruit, how they what you call it? Snowflake model left my brain. So, think about that, right? And then I'll start to show you some of these things, make you fucking creep out. Also know that they're measuring all of it. So, see, my videos build. Don't rush me, fuckers. Okay. So this is a place for you to check back on what we talked about during the digital organizing training, including strategies and best practices for how to use the internet as you organize, right? Now, good organizers organize on online and offline, and this handbook will provide strategies and best practices. Okay, so it's basically a playbook. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You can read the whole thing. I'm just going to show you some of the fucking alarming, creepy shit, right? The cult shit. So, 1, building communities. Now, I'm going to go through some of these things one by one. Like I've talked about the cancellation one and how to get rid of people in your community and how to deal with it. I'm going to go into more detail on that, some countermeasures, counter tactics that you can use as a community manager or just as your average internet user, or even just how to learn if I was evil, how to fucking make something like this. Please don't do that. Please don't. Don't use this for evil. Use it for good. So don't use it at all if you can avoid it. But shit like this is why I quit. So our objectives: 1, building communities. This includes strategies for creating and building a Facebook group of community members, growing a Twitter audience, and collecting volunteers' email addresses and cell phone numbers. Ordinary marketing shit, right? Engaging communities and activating them, right? This includes strategies to mobilize your Facebook friends, group members, and Twitter followers, as well as how to email and text them to take action. Now, when you look at this fucking thing, right? That when they say activate, they mean this. They mean subject you and your friends to this, sharing surveys, okay? Getting them at events, getting them on this fucking hamster wheel, right? So activate is loaded, right, in this case. So Paul, you'll know this one because you know the organizer's handbook. Storytelling, okay? Now, a big part of of Ganz's work is around stories and narratives and having a tight hero's journey. It's, he uses sort of, again, you'll start to see the themes around hero's journey and storytelling, and everyone's sort of focusing on one symptom and not really seeing the bigger picture, which is this model. Online storytelling. Stories are powerful. They build relationships, engage supporters, and mobilize people to act. See, the thing is that most of this stuff, I have a presentation that's basically the same, right? Which is how to run a campaign, right? But there's just some creepy shit, right? Just as you tell stories offline, you have to tell them online too. It's simple. Tell stories of real people and yourself, right? So activists, what they do is they build rapport, much like the fucking Scientologists with the personality test. They build rapport, they get dirt on you, they find your pain points, but it's like a manufactured friendship, right? I posted the other day about this like great new friend who's love bombing you and pretending that they're your great new friend when they could actually just be one of these people as an activist, right? So try to have your guard up. Now, or they could, on a dating site, right? They could be trying to get you to fucking sign up. I'm serious. Like, don't trust this shit. So Tell the story of what you do every day, hosting events, meeting new volunteers, collecting commit to vote cards to generate excitement and make it easier for voters and potential volunteers to connect with the campaign or cause, right? Remember these 4 things as you tell stories online. So this is it's just a template. Find the connection between your subject and the campaign, right? And this is the cynical thing. This is the thing where I see, you know what I was talking about being somebody who sort of, I got excited about new friends or wanted a connection. And what they've done is they've made this artificial, right? It doesn't surprise me, right? But there's just a cynicism to it, right? Which is the fact that they see you as a lead or as a prospect, right? And they will fake a friendship, right? Like a dude that's trying to fuck you to leave you. It's the same fucking thing. As soon as you don't give them what they want, like you need to be mindful of this stuff, and it's exploitative, and that's why it's unethical, because it hurts people, right? And it takes advantage of our kindness and our need for belonging, and that's the problem that I have with it, right? So find the connection between your subject and the campaign. So I'm the primary caregiver for my mum. She depends on Medicaid. Our campaign has spent her life fighting to prevent Medicaid, which is why my mum makes 100 calls every week here in our office. Okay. Now, the reason why I focus on American stuff is because we're downwind from it. And this is the materials. We're receiving American tech companies. They're all American, and we're all fucking subjected to this fuckery and the same tactics. They're using them in every fucking political party. Everyone's trying it. Okay, it's not one party that's doing it. That's the point. They're all using the same tactics. 2, create a sense of urgency. So if you're feeling a bit fucked up like at the moment, this is why, because everyone's trying to fucking do this. So the election is in 150 days, blah, blah, blah. Tell people why taking action is critical, and then explicit the ask. Activate, okay? Explicitly ask, can you join us Saturday or Sunday this weekend to knock on doors? Okay? Now, make it easy for supporters to get involved by including a link to sign up to volunteer in your posts. It's what follows. Don't give people your email address or phone number unless you want to fucking be in this thing. So, things to keep in mind, right? Be a human. So cynical, right? Post stories in your own voice. Be genuine and be you. Be positive online. Highlight the great work of your fellow organisers and volunteers to keep your audience focused on the goal. Can you see the overlap where they're kind of concealing what's actually going on behind those, sort of naive practices, which is that there's this young activist who, wants to make a difference. They're given this stuff, but they're not told why or for what purpose, right? So where possible, oh yeah, that's just fucking format stuff. Facebook is the best place to organise online because so many are on there, right? And because Facebook allows you to do so many things, recruit for events, post in groups, message people directly. It's the easiest and most effective place on the internet to organize people. It's also the place that they're fucking running campaigns on their product and not telling you that they're doing that, and building fucking lists and getting people on these databases so they can fuck with them. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to show you. So Facebook is making it easier for real people to make connections and making it harder for brands and companies to post things that people will see. Yeah, because these fucking organizations fucked up all the Facebook pages and fucked up all the Facebook groups. So they had to deboost them to make sure that authentic and real connection. So what these guys have done is now making it so that it's individual Facebook accounts that are now weaponized, not groups and pages and all those things. So they're actually just fucking admitting to that. It makes me so mad. It's so unethical. So your personal Facebook profile is more important than Facebook pages. Facebook's new algorithm now shows more content from normal people and fewer posts from businesses. This means that your profile will be the best tool for organizing online. That when they say organizing, think harvesting details so that we can feed them needle nudging ads. Think about that, right? Change those words around in your mind. Facebook groups, right? So if you run a fan community, and I've talked about this a few times, right? If you run a big community, you'll see this behavior. Facebook groups can be used to build a community around an issue, right? But they're also the fastest place to build a community of people you can get to take action. Treat anyone in a political activism related Facebook group like a hot lead. Now, cultural targets are included there. Singers, comedians, actors, entertainers, anybody with a community is a target. It's not just political communities. Like I said, it could be a gardening group, right? They're fucking, as long as you've got a group, they're doing this shit, right? And if it's not the Democrats doing this shit, it's the Republicans doing this shit, or it's the CCP, or it's fucking Russia, or it's some low-level fucking MLM marketer. Everyone's doing fuckery because it's the same playbook, okay? But it's written down for you to see, okay? You'll see it. Now, that's why you have to make sure that you are clear on the rules and the culture of any community that you run. Now, they joined because they're interested in the cause, right? No, a lot of people joined because they were interested in a certain musician or interested in gardening. See the way that they conceal these things, right? Now it's up to you to recruit them. You can either create your own group or join another. This is what we're seeing with a lot of the entryism, right? Here are ways to build, engage, and activate a Facebook community, no matter which option you choose. This is the thing that it makes me so mad because I'm watching it happen with a number of groups that I'm in, with a lot of, and a couple that I manage. And it's just like, you got to boot them. This is what I've said. And I think in the cancellation video, right? And the entryist video, you've got to get rid, they've got to go. You've got to have hard rules. Don't share your shit with people, right? Don't be a dickhead. It's like you don't just go in for a personality test with Scientology. You don't just walk into the fucking Church of Scientology. You don't just go to a Tupperware party. It's the same fucking thing. You don't engage with the zombies. Okay, so if you choose to join an existing group, be an active member of any new group you join. So it's so cynical, right? All these things that are great about the internet, sharing, connecting over shared goals. You can no longer, well, I can, but most people can no longer tell, right, if you are being genuine or whether you are like there for legitimate purposes or there for this, right? And that's the problem. There are signs, like some people are more obvious than others, right? But you see these people, they're constantly like testing the community. They'll come in all friendly and they'll it's obvious once you're more aware of it. And it's beyond the scope of even fucking 100 videos. This takes 25 years of fucking watching this shit to be able to know if someone, to know someone's motivations. That's the problem with this AI stuff and the troll farms and all those things, is that they're getting it gets increasingly harder to tell. So you need to focus on the actual behavior and manage the behavior before, it gets out of hand. So be an active member of any group, post messages, message people, and introduce yourself and post content relevant to the group, right? Once you've built those relationships, step 2, once you've built those relationships, you can move people from engaging with you to being active volunteers and move them towards taking offline action in a meaningful way. As always, post opportunities for people to volunteer, donate, or attend events by including links in your post. Now, some people will try to create a separate group, a separate Facebook group that's related, but they control, right? I'm seeing that a lot, right? Where they're going, okay, this group has 50,000 members and we don't like the admin, but what I can do is poach 100 of those and form a group, and then I own that group, right? That's something that I'm seeing a lot of. So make sure that people who don't let people promote other groups or create other groups under your name, or or poach your members, right? People are going to message each other. Like that's how it's going to be. You can't avoid all of it, but you can like nip it in the bud at solicitation. Like you can manage it from within your community. You can't control what's outside of it, right? And you can make people aware of these things, right? Once you're aware of it and you see it, right? Many groups already exist whose mission may align with yours, right? So, for example, in this case, they're saying lefty causes, but it could actually be, I'm seeing it a lot in musician communities and cultural stuff, movie, fandoms, games, a lot of those sorts of things, right? Any community, right? If you don't know it, it's happening, right? If you run a community, it's probably happening. You can join these groups and help build, engage, and activate these members. And when you say activate, remember, it's the fuckery, okay? Now, when you join a new group, message the group admins to introduce yourself. If they're local, make plans to meet up offline to build up those relationships, turn them into offline volunteers. Now, at the end of the day, set aside a block of time to find and friend everyone you interacted with that day. Set a group member goal and encourage everyone in the group to help meet the goal by adding friends. Each day, give an update of how close the group is to meeting the new member goal, and shout out people who have added the most. Now, this whole social pressure thing, this is when this kicks in, right? Create incentives etc., by offering prizes. And in that sense, you can also create incentives with, the difference between MLM and something like this is that, well, yeah, it is about money at the end of the day and power, but it's also about clout, attention, feeling like those sort of intangible stuff. It's not just about promising profit. It's about promising us other intangible things, right? So your volunteers should also, so think about it as social capital instead of actual capital. Your volunteers should also add everyone they meet to the group. Sit down with your volunteers. See, this is unethical marketing practice, right? This is spam. Like, there's laws against this stuff. So your volunteers should also add everyone they meet to the group. Sit down with your volunteers and go through their friends list with them. That was the thing that got me, because I was like, that reminds me of something. Finding people who might be interested in being added to the group. See? So find other groups, find other democratic groups, country parties, regional Facebook groups and or pages to help promote your content, events and group. Promote the group. This is, again, some of this is just basic marketing shit, right? That you would do if you were genuine. That's the thing, right? If you're a genuine marketer and operating ethically, it's what this conceals that concerns me, right? You need a trained eye. I have a trained eye on this. So have your volunteers post content to their personal pages, photos, upcoming events, or candidate page content. So have your volunteers post content, okay? So when they're talking about the big ask, what they're asking is for you to control and tell people what to post, ask people to share propaganda, ask people to do certain things. Your Facebook profile is your Facebook profile, okay? Now be mindful if anyone asks you to post something, right? Be mindful, right? But they use a number of underneath that ask, right, is all these coercive techniques and sales techniques. Think about all those coercive techniques that you would use in a sales meeting to get someone, right? And I'll talk about that in the Organizer's Handbook, and I'm going to focus on the hard sale and the big ask and the hard ask as its own video, because it's its own thing, right? I've done like intensive sales training, and the pressure, the psychological pressure and manipulation that's involved in have your volunteers post content. The question is, what happens when you say no? With any of these things, right? If you say no, what happens? Okay, if they try to sort of gaslight you or coerce you or use, guilt trips or anything like that, right? Run the other way. Okay, now, so make sure you're regularly screening and approving new group members. Add people to your group through other platforms as well. So send an email to your list linking to your Facebook group and ask anyone who hasn't joined to join it. And anyone who, again, just, fucking annoying fuckery shit, right? Once you've built a big Facebook group, you need to engage its members so they're primed to take action when asked. Now, I'm pretty sure I've talked long enough and you can see what this means, right? Which is they do what you say. And that's where all the brainwashing is in, right? That's where all the that's all that stuff, right? There's a whole fucking load of shit underneath that looks like the culty stuff, right? The woke cult. The social pressure. Why didn't you share that black square? Why haven't you put your the Black Lives Matter fist up? Why haven't you done that? Are you racist? You don't want to be a racist, do you? And then they start bitching behind the scenes and calling you suggesting to other people that you might be problematic, right? And there's all these sorts of tactics, right? That's where a lot of these psychological tactics kick in, that pressure. So. Now, you can read the rest of this stuff, but ask your volunteers offline to introduce themselves to the Facebook group and share a photo and their personal story. So if they're offline and not on Facebook and they don't have any data, make sure that they share some shit so you've got some data. So they're on this train, okay? Encourage them to regularly share content to the group when they are in the office or on the doors, right? This just infuriates me. Online, welcome every new member to the group with a public tag. Again, that public display of pressure, okay? Be mindful of that. Anybody, again, some of these things are organic friend things where you'll tag people. I generally don't. I don't like tagging people in things if they, but just, hang on. But follow up with a Facebook message reaching out. And if you haven't met with the group member before, set up a one-to-one. These are hot leads. After having a one-to-one, post the photo and tag the volunteer in it. Okay, that puts pressure on them. Shows them that they're part of the tribe. It's a fucking show of power. Okay, there's some sinister shit under this. Now, I don't know. Let me know if you want me to talk at a more granular level about each of like that, some of that pressure. But I think that I could go on for 6 hours if that's the case. But post albums and tag people in the album. So let the whole world know that they went to a one-on-one with you, and they're associated with you and your fucking and your movement. Because what that does is it creates the in-group and the out-group. And what they do is they're bringing you into the fold, so you get the love bomb, so that you then, first of all, alienate anyone around you who doesn't agree and, start shit. And second of all, make it just, it's that grooming, right? The same thing with a cult. Anyway, once you have a big engaged group, the next step, or you've taken over one, which is another fucking thing. It's a whole other story. I've talked about that before. Ask current group members to add new group members. Create a goal within a time frame. We need to add 50 more members by the end of this week. If every group member adds 5 people, we can meet our goal, right? And no one's talking about like the actual goal or anything or the context or anything underneath this. This is the activist handbook. This is what the fucking low levels are told. Go out in the streets, sell that Amway, right? And you might be able to organize. If you get people underneath you, like you're going to get lots of power and social praise and all of this sort of stuff, right? And you might even get to meet Hillary, or you might even get to meet the leader, right? How does it? It's obvious when you see it, right? Now, when you're at events, post photos of people you're meeting and tag them online, with or without their consent. Okay, again, it's that coercion, right? Making sure that you claim that person publicly as part of the group, right? But also tagging, because the people who are fucking trying to get you on their campaign trail, you're in, right? So they put you in their CRM, they flag you, they segment you, they put you in all these lists, and they make it so that they know that you met that person, and it's documented and it's a public record that you met that person, right? So anyway, but look at this. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm going to skip through it, but there's also a bunch of group security settings that allow you to monitor the group. As the admin of your group, if you find that a member's posting has become problematic, you can temporarily disable their posting and commenting abilities. So what they're asking you to do is control the message and control the narrative, okay? If anyone starts to ask questions or be critical, you can just shut them off and kick them out of the group, okay? It's fucking worrying. But you've got Facebook events, which is very much the same kind of thing, right? Facebook Messenger, this is the direct one. To build your Facebook group, message people who you see are online and ask them to add friends to the group. You can also recruit people for one-to-ones and events using Facebook Messenger, and you can confirm them quickly for one-to-ones and events they're already scheduled for, right? Anytime a new individual engages with your group, even if it's as small as liking a post, reach out to him or her via Facebook Messenger and ask them to come to your next event. And then they do hard sales stuff, right? And I don't know if anyone works in sales here, but it's quite a specific thing, right? That's why the only answer, like in sales training or sales, the only answer with hard sales is to just say, no, thank you. Don't give any objection, have no objection handling, no avenue. Say, no, I am not interested, and leave it at that. That's the only strategy with these people, right? So wrapping up Facebook, blah, blah, blah. So Twitter is interesting. So Twitter still, it's not ideal because obviously their platform is centered around getting people to activate on Facebook because that's the platform that they can manipulate the best, right? But it still has value. Twitter still has value for 2 main reasons: shaping the narrative online, right? And letting you communicate and celebrate the work of other organizers. Again, publicly associate, claim, right? Twitter has and/or shame. That's the flip side of this. Publicly disassociating, right? This is the subtext of this, right? So Twitter has produced large numbers of hot leads. Reporters and influencers congregate on Twitter, and it's where news breaks. The perfect place for us to try to show we're excited and we're running a strong on-the-ground campaign. So why is Twitter important for digital organizing? Main one, influence journalists. You see it, right? So again, we can talk about that. Now, this is where I'll talk about the Twitter followers and stuff, because you can just buy followers, right? You can just buy followers. And this is where you can run a sophisticated, if I was evil, I could just spend $2,000, get 1 million followers on Twitter, do all of these tactics, and all of a sudden I'd be fucking, famous and trending and shit. It's easy to do if you've got the money, right? And they've got the money. So I hope this is interesting, because from the agency side, I think a lot of people don't really know a lot of this industry side of things, right? And I can deep dive into some more stuff. But again, they have to keep remember, tweet in your voice, because they don't want to get caught up. Again, this is how to just conceal what they're doing, right? I know it sounds innocent, but there's all plausible deniability built into a lot of this stuff. And this is solid marketing advice. If you're trying to sell your business or network or whatever, you should be authentic, right? Do what I do, right? I do it differently. The difference between me and these guys is that I don't do any of this fuckery. I do it genuinely and organically and ethically. I will not touch any of this stuff, right? But I know how to do it, and you need to be aware of it, and also just make a stand against it, right? This stuff needs to be illegal, right? And that's interesting. Jennifer said hard sales is illegal in Japan. Yeah, and it should be illegal everywhere. I think we're increasingly needing more and more regulation around these things, right? So I hope that this becomes illegal. I think that this is it. So how to activate, there's that word again. So make a hard ask, just as you do offline. Hard sales, hard ask, pressure, social pressure, welcome them to the fold, love bomb them. Coercion, use that psychological pressure, especially given that you've targeted mostly women who want to fit in and have made a great new friend who is their best friend now, and you shared all of your secrets with. When they ask you to do what they want you to do, what do you say? Sure. So direct messaging, so you can direct message. The upside is that you can get a one-on-one. The downside is, so think about celebrate, but also change that interchangeably with cancel, because there's a flip side to all of these things, right? So if you're trying to celebrate someone, it won't have the same public accountability that tweeting at someone instead of messaging does. Celebrate. Call out. Some other tips: don't tweet campaign numbers. It's okay to tweet that one of your volunteers knocked on $150 on a weekend, but don't tweet any campaign metrics. Why? Anyway, email, same thing, except direct, right? Again, email your whole list, email everybody. That's illegal. That's spam. There's laws against that in Australia. Don't do this, okay? Don't send people unsolicited emails. Don't be a cunt, okay? It's also a great way to celebrate your volunteers and hopefully motivate other people to get involved, and or shame them to get involved, okay, depending on how much passive aggression you throw. Think about imagine all this shit in the hands of like blue-haired fucks. See how passive aggressive this would be, right? Think about how you already email people, but just do it at scale. Every email address you collect is valuable, which is true, but that's just marketing, right? I collect email addresses. I don't use them, but it's just a way for me to contact people if I need to. Again, there's ethical and reasonable ways to use this, as long as it's double opt-in, as long as people know what you're doing, right? If people know that they're signing up to fucking activist MLM, fine. I don't think most people do, right? If they knew that that they were going to be drip-fed propaganda so that they can swing their vote, I don't think most people would take an issue with that, don't you? So ask grassroots, I'm skipping some stuff, but ask grassroots group leaders to email their own email lists, asking to add folks to your list so they share each other's lists. Okay, now that should be illegal. That's illegal in Australia as well. Now, so collect their contact information and reach out one by one. These are new hot leads. There's that word again. Citizens, people who vote that you are manipulating. They're not hot leads. Okay. Now, digital teams who run email lists have best practices here. They don't only ask people for money. Every few fundraising emails they throw, so this is where the money comes in, right? I'm starting to believe that this is actually a big fucking scam. where they just set up a bunch of not-for-profits for donations and get all these fucking idiots to do all this groundwork, and they're just harvesting data, manipulating elections, and making a fuck ton of money, right? That's my conclusion. But anyway, send out volunteer celebration emails, send out recaps, send out emotional stories from supporters about why they're supporting the candidate. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. Again, there's lines here. You see where there's grey. Okay. Segmenting. So you can segment your audiences to make sure that you chase people who flake, people who show up, and also, you know, people who are, you know, different scores, different persuasion scores, all that sort of stuff. So the agency is called Acronym. I'll link to it in. I will link to this in the description. If you go back and watch the rest, Jennifer, I built up to that, which is these guys are a major tech company for the Democrats at the moment, and they helped Trump win, and they're using the Obama playbook. So to sum up, right? It doesn't make sense for you not to try to use email. Yeah, I think that there's an ethical argument to organize people in your community. If you collect email addresses from people and engage them over email so they're primed to take action again, and they know the asks are coming, which you do because you're drip feeding them, right? So they're expecting it. You can recruit for shifts and events, confirm people for shifts, but it's what they're not concealing what they're actually trying to do, right? There's no transparency about the actual. This is the playbook for the activist, right? This is the playbook for the fucking Avon rep who thinks they're selling makeup. Okay, think of it that way. Instagram and Snapchat, same shit, right? Reaching out to organized allies. When you hit the ground in your turf, identify local groups quickly and find ways to connect with them online. So like and follow their Facebook pages, follow them on Twitter, and enter those groups. So those groups are the easiest, quickest way to get those hot leads that we're talking about, right? Test it out / switch it up. So A/B test it, okay? See what works. Keep trying different things. I'm seeing that in one community where one person went full BLM, misread the room, and now is fucking like, you know, trying something else, and it's funny. So, you know, keep trying. It's not going to work. But, you know, yeah, so keep trying new things, test it. Look, test your confirmation rates, right? Again, I know how this works. This is marketing, but this is also, you know, some of this stuff you can use legitimately, but most of this stuff is MLM playbook stuff. If you've gotten involved in those fucking stupid life coach cults or, you know, those things, you'll see the pattern. Now, there you go. So this is another acronym. Talked about them, right? This is these guys. Same guys, right? People who saw our ads over the past 2 months have 3.6% lower approval, Donald Trump, which is good. See, that's the problem. That's why I'm uncomfortable with it, because that's what I feel uncomfortable about, is that it, you know, like that's why I was like with Obama and those things. It's like, well, can you do this stuff for good? And increasingly, I think that we need to not look at the outcome, but look at the tactics used and focus on those and make sure that we say, no, this is unacceptable, right? So Democratic strategists set up $75 million digital campaign to counter Trump, right? Same thing. David Plouffe, I think, the former Obama campaign manager, will advise the effort, which aims to compete with the president on his terms. See, again, the way that they conceal this information. No, what they're doing is they're using the same strategy that Obama used in 2008, that the Russians and Trump then used as the playbook, right? And it's not like, I love how like fucking, this is, see how the bias kicks in with the New York Times and stuff? It's like, no, that's not factually correct. These people don't give a fuck. They back who they think they can win and who they can get the most money out of, right? Because I'm increasingly starting to think that this is more of, you know, like they call themselves Another Acronym, right? Like, it's a joke amongst like not-for-profits and stuff that it's just another acronym. Just create a fucking not-for-profit or non-government organization or charity that's just got another acronym, right? And they're like, it's just like, are you serious? Are you like literally just like goading people like that? Oh yeah, we'll just create this. And then they drive donations Right, that hard ask is also donations. And so you get people stomping the pavement and you get people driving donations, thinking that they're fighting for a good cause, think they're fighting for like friends and all of that sort of stuff, right? Think they've got great new friends that are friendly and nice when they're actually joining a cult and they're actually just doing the foot soldier work for fucking, donations and all this sort of shit, political shit, right? And political fuckery. And again, right? Thank you, Philip, for the super chat. That's very nice. That's very kind. Thank you. I appreciate the super chats because this is a lot of work. But anyway, that was really an intro, an hour and a half of fucking intro, and I still got a lot more that I could do. Right. But starting to see the parallels, right? And I know you've got a lot of academics and people saying that this is a political phenomenon, but it's not. You can't assess this outside of the lens of capitalism, right? This is why wokeism is not, I firmly believe it's not a left-wing movement as such. It is an industry and it is a template and it is a product. I've said this for fucking the last year, right? I don't believe that it is the fault of the political left. I think that the political left have used these things with great effect for the right causes. And I think the political right have used it. It's a campaign playbook. But there needs to be some understanding about what is and isn't ethical in terms of the practices, in terms of digital here, right? Which is the harvesting of email, zero tolerance on this Facebook fuckery, right? The fact that the New York Times is actually celebrating the fact that so that the good guys are using the same fuckery that got Trump elected while saying that no, it's unethical. Where's the people? And that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people just don't understand how the industry works. And they just go, oh yeah, okay. Like, I don't think people even understand what Cambridge Analytica are doing. So what I'm trying to do is you people, everyday people, know what's happening. Okay, don't give your email address out. Be aware of your privacy and also be guarded about who you make Facebook friends with. Facebook particularly at the moment, because there's a lot of people that just are adding everyone, right? And the people do that when they're MLM, but they also do that for politics, right? You part of a group and they join the group and then they add everybody on their Facebook friends and they invite them to groups. They take them out of the official groups, right, onto their group, which they then control the data for. They can then, manage, because if you've got a senior manager like me in charge of the group or someone like it, that, they're not as malleable to getting all of these things, right? You can't put them on the pipeline, right? It's called a funnel or a pipeline, sales funnel, right? It's the same sort of thing. But they use the same fucking cult tactics. So the combination of coercion. So anyway, was that useful? I hope it was. That is an hour and 40 minutes, quite long. I'm going to be doing more tomorrow and more every day on this. Please, if there's anything that I've missed, right, ask me to clarify and I'll go into it, right? Because I've got a lot to cover and I'll probably missed a whole bunch of shit. I also might reiterate a few things or clarify a few things because, I'll watch it back and I might have misspoken. So, but Peter said USA politics used to be about transferring political donations to media. Now it's about transferring political donations to online groups. Absolutely. And also fucking woke not-for-profit racket. Right? I swear to God, it's the same shit, different, it's capitalism, man. Fucking crooks using these tactics for bad. I mean, I would actually argue that if you're, an ethical, I would advise in a lot of these tactics if you're just doing the right thing. But to see it written in such a cynical way, right? It should be something that you do. It's the motivation. It's the motivation behind it, and it's the ethics, and it's very. This is the thing where I have a dilemma, right? Which is that it's like, because I would argue that it's unethical to manipulate people, right? But is it ethical to manipulate people when they're being manipulated so that they're not manipulated anymore? And it's like that race to the bottom, right? And it's like, I would argue that it's completely unethical and a major breach of privacy. We need to address data. What we need to do is address that people need to be compensated and own their own data. And anything, I've talked about brand yourself and all those other fucking HR tools. I've talked about this tool, all those others, anything that assigns you a score, you need to know about, right? You should have the right to know what they have on you and have the ability to request deletion, right? And of course, evil people are not going to, they're just going to go, yeah, sure, we fucking deleted it, whatever you say. But at the same time, it might put people on notice, right? And also just, like this networking cult psychology approach to anything that fucks with people's heads is inherently unethical. Okay. Like you've got to do the right thing. So please don't use these things for evil, but feel free to, as long as you're aware of the tactics, feel free to call it out. I will try to give some advice on how to deal with it. Right. And, but a lot of it is no real, we're dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars, lots of people. We're dealing with a cult, like it's like it's whack-a-mole, really. All you can really do is protect your communities or educate people that are leading online communities and make them aware of the symptoms and say, look, there's probably a bit of fuckery going on in your community. It's really hard. It's like saying, how do you get people to not trust the news? Well, there's always going to be that portion of people that just trust everything they read, right? So it's a challenge. But so Oberara, I did notice that you behaved. Thank you very much. And Paul said that the secret is to have transparency and tell people what is happening. Once that happens, yeah, we'll get it. And that's the thing. Don't do counterfuckery, okay? And that's the thing. Just be careful about what you share as well, okay? And don't be too chummy with people on either side of politics. Work hard on your critical thinking. Work hard on figuring out what's true, right? Like even some of this stuff, like taking videos out of context and reposting them and saying that they're from China, and then they turn out to be from somewhere else, and then something that's from Syria, that's from Lebanon, and it's like, no, you need to make sure that you verify. Just be cautious about what you share, and more just basic protective behaviors online. Okay, don't let people love bomb you. Don't trust people. Don't let people it's basically like catfishing. Be guarded. Okay, assume again, and I don't want it to be like you can't make friends, or I don't want to sow mistrust, but that's by design, right? This by design takes advantage of our goodness and our lizard brains, right? And our desire to connect and make new friends, and naively, like I've met a lot of great new friends over the years, and I've been excited, and they've turned out to be legit, and it's great. But I've also been fucked, okay? Literally. Not really. Well, yeah, literally. Not while I was married, but, any other time. But, yeah, be careful on Tinder. This is just basic protective behaviors as well. So don't instantly trust everybody, okay? Now, if you want, this is something that I, can consult in. If you need me to talk about it, I'm fucking billing you. But if you need me to, if you want me to have a look at your community and if it's of a decent size and fuckery's happening, I'm happy to have a look at it. Like, that's fine. But I don't know. I don't feel, it's hard. I'm up against some serious fucking money with this stuff. It's really hard. I don't know how to do it other than just educate you and just keep talking, and hopefully YouTube and see. And I thought what's interesting is the fact that you can't blame Facebook for a lot of this stuff. I think Facebook are actually trying, but the second that they ban the tool, right? These dudes, you can't tell me they didn't take the fucking data as well, right? And feed it and all of that sort of stuff. And they've basically copied the product. And now Facebook don't have control over it. So they're fucking it from the outside. So it's not all about Facebook. It's not all about Twitter. It's about the tools that they create that fuck with those platforms that are causing a problem. And it's really, really hard. It's basically like organized crime. There's only so much you can do. You can't really do much, but you can be aware that, you shouldn't be selling drugs and you shouldn't be doing these things. And it's not okay. Focusing on the behavior and the patterns is more important, because then people are more equipped to stop it. So anyway, I hope this was of value. It was a long video, I know, but hopefully it was informative. I'm not going to fucking edit it. Watch it when you're ready. I love you. If you want to support me, that would be very good, because, then I can edit and stuff like that. But I'm going to go. I love you. Thank you for your precious life seconds. And stay well, and I'm going to go and do stuff. You can rewatch the replay, Baseman, but Yeah. I will be back tomorrow, probably about the same time. I'm probably going to go do a couple of pages on the Organizer's Handbook. I'm hoping that they won't be as long as this one, but you never know with me. They're there. Okay. You can watch them in whenever you're ready. There's no rush. Okay. Thank you. I love you. Bye.